going to ask if everyone can find a seat, and if the city council candidates can find their way to the dais, please, and find your nameplate and be seated behind it. That would be great. We need to get this forum underway. Thank you for finding a seat. If when you find a seat, you can find your way closer to the front, we know that others will be coming, and we want to make room for them in the back so they can just slip in when they find their way here. My name is Kurt Crone, and I am the current president of Concerned DeSoto Citizens. It's an honor to be here today, and an honor to also co-host with the DeSoto Chamber of Commerce. I want to introduce the CEO, the president of the DeSoto Chamber of Commerce, Vanessa Sterling. She's going to introduce our moderator for the day.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank y'all for coming out. I know it's Easter weekend. I know it's early and probably thawing out, but we appreciate you coming out to hear from these candidates and hear what they have to say. As he stated, my name is Vanessa Sterling, and I proudly serve as the president of the DeSoto Area Chamber of Commerce. And I would like to introduce our beautiful moderator, Honorable Judge Aisha Redmond. Judge Redmond is the presiding judge of the 160th Judicial District Court. Before ascending to the bench, she served as the Assistant District Attorney with the Dallas County District Attorney's Office in the Civil and Criminal Division, where she prosecuted a variety of felonies, claims, and civil matters. Judge Redmond began her legal career as an associate in the Complex Commercial Litigation Division at Baker Botts LLP. While at Baker Botts, she gained in-depth experience handling commercial litigation, representing corporations, individuals, and governmental entities in federal and state court. Judge Redmond worked on a variety of complex civil matters, including contractual issues, labor and employment, pharmaceutical, and construction litigation. A graduate of Thurgood Marshall School of Law at Texas Southern University, Judge Redmond was a member of the Law Review, graduated 8 out of 210 students, and earned her law degree with honors. Judge Redmond has been honored by the National Bar Association and received several awards for excellence in service. She has earned an Exceptional Woman in Justice and Education Award and a Humanitarian Award. A dedicated public servant, she has a commitment to equal justice for all under the law. Her public service extends beyond the courtroom. She is an active member of the American Bar Association and has assisted and mentored students with college and law school mock trials. Please welcome our moderator, Judge Aisha Redmond. And we're going to have our CDC President, Kurt Crone.
It's my pleasure to introduce our student moderator for the day. Patrick Williams Jr. is currently the DeSoto High School 2023 Senior Class President. He's also top of his class, the president of the Math Honor Society. He's also this year's president of the DHS National Honor Society and president of the City of DeSoto Teen Council. Patrick will be attending Florida A&M University this fall and plans to major in biomedical engineering. He is also a proud former West Middle School and Ruby Young Elementary School student. In his free time, Patrick enjoys spending time with his family and engaging, obviously, with his DeSoto community. Would you welcome Patrick Williams Jr., our student moderator? I also want to take this opportunity to recognize someone you all know very, very, very well. Kenneth Govan. Kenneth is our timekeeper. He's seated in the middle of the room. Kenneth is the area manager of the Community and Customer Operation for Encore Electric and has served in and chaired the Best Southwest Partnership, DeSoto Chamber of Commerce, Methodist Center for Advisory Board, Duncanville Community and Economic Development Corporation, Leadership Dallas, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, Leadership Southwest, and so much more. Kenneth has served as the timekeeper of this event virtually since its inception in 1826. Would you welcome Kenneth, go ahead. I'm going to turn over the forum now. Candidates, you may take your seats. I'm going to turn it over now to Judge Redmond.
Thank you. We will now proceed with the City Council candidate forum, starting with the rules. Each candidate will make an initial 1-minute address in alphabetical order of last name within the numerical order of the place numbers. Unopposed candidates will be allowed to participate in the 1-minute opening and closing addresses, but will not participate in the questioning portion of the forum. The first round of questions will follow the order of the initial addresses. The second round of questions will begin with alphabetically the next second person, and so on for each additional question.
All questions will be presented by one of the moderators. Each question will be read once unless the candidate requests the question be repeated. The candidate will begin speaking when the moderator calls his or her name. If the question needs to be repeated, it may be requested at that time. Each candidate will be permitted 1 minute to answer questions. A 1-minute summary address will be allowed each candidate at the end of the forum. The sequence will be in reverse order of initial addresses, both numerically and alphabetically.
Questions will be collected from the audience and used if time permits. Questions from the audience must be written on a card provided at the registration table and given to either Dorothy Pierce, CDC's Vice President for Programming, Gayla Burton, CDC's Vice President for Membership, or Vanessa Sterling, DeSoto Chamber of Commerce's CEO. Questions can also be posted via Zoom chat feature. We will now proceed with 1-minute opening statements in alphabetical orders of their place numbers, starting with Mr. Gilbert Graham, Jr.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gilbert Graham, and I am just excited to be here. I'm excited to be going through this journey. I just want to appreciate you guys and thank you guys. My family and I, with my 2-year-old that is in her terrible 2s, and my wife moved to DeSoto out of all the cities because we just loved what was happening. I work in new development, and I just think I can bring a lot to the table because we are on the move in this city, and there is just so much to love.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Perrette Parker, and I'm a mom of an adult daughter, 20 years old, so you probably can tell where I am in that stage. I've been in DeSoto for 20 plus years. I'm a Concord member 14 years. I am devoted to helping and being a part of the community. I sit on the actual Parks Board as the Park Board Chair. I've been on the Park Board for 4 years, three and a half, almost 4 years. And I've been working in and throughout DeSoto in mayor meetings, city council meeting, mayor 360s, P&Zs on behalf of DeSoto. My whole platform is about processes and bringing improvement to DeSoto, integrity and transparency. And I'm here to serve.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, Mr. Moderator, and thank you concerning DeSoto citizen as well as the Chamber. I am Andre Bird. I am your City Councilman for Place 4, currently serving as Mayor Pro Tem of this great city of DeSoto. I'm married to the love of my life for over 35 years. We've been together for 42 years, and I would do it all over again if she's naive enough to say yes. We have 2 wonderful children who both live in the area. I am currently seeking your vote to continue the work that we have started. This council have been a council that have been about action, not about talk. We have brought about ideas that was on the table 20 years ago. We have teed them up and they are ready to happen. This is a great time to be in DeSoto, and it's a great time to keep me as your city councilman. Thank you so much, and may God bless you.
First leaders realize that work is not done alone and recognize the power of leveraging community partners to effectively solve problems and provide innovative solutions that impact our community on a number of levels. How do community partners fit into your plan? What about their agenda appeals to you?
Ms. Correct Parker, this question is for you.
Okay, so right now I am actually a HOA manager and I work with HOAs that sit in DeSoto. And so as far as community partnering, I'm always community partnering already. I'm already working with HOA leaders. I work with the community in several facets. I'm actually on the park board as a park board chair. I work on things like the park board, the Mosley pool upgrades, things that help with the quality of life in DeSoto. And so as far as community is concerned, I am always talking in terms of it's not my community, it's our community. So I want to make certain that people know I'm here to serve the community.
Councilman Burke.
Thank you for the question. To the same regard, community partnering is the essence of who we are and who we are as public servants. You can't serve the community without the community. So those partnerships, i.e., I walk the streets of neighborhoods with a very outspoken, who don't always agree with me, citizen. But when she asked me to come walk her neighborhood, to come look at the street parking, to come look at the dilapidated homes, we walk those neighborhoods. When other neighbors were worried about buildings being across the street from their neighborhood, we set up meetings, we set up lunches. We are very interactive, directly active with our community partners. It's not always those people who are singing your cheers, but I think community partners sometimes can be your best critics who will push you forward to making sure that DeSoto works for all of us. So we're very appreciative for those community partners, and we have a grassroots effort when it comes to community partnership, and we're very grateful for that.
Mr. Graham.
Great question. I think that it's very important to get the entire community involved. And when I first moved to DeSoto and we built our home in 2019, I think the biggest thing that I seen while I was trying to get involved was discord from different levels. And I think the biggest thing we can do here in DeSoto is reunite, because we are truly headed in the right direction in every facet. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is that the community doesn't feel as involved, or they're just so upset or mad at what was going on prior to this board that they are disconnected. So I think community partnerships is very important, but I think we also need to go back to the basics of getting everybody at the same table and letting them know in layman terms where our plan is and where we're going, so that we can all ensure that we're working together, because we can't do that without the community.
Thank you. Question number 2. What do you believe to be the most significant challenge and or opportunity facing DeSoto currently? And what are your recommendations for addressing that challenge or opportunity? Ms. Parker?
I believe that the biggest challenge right now is just bringing people out of their homes, bringing people together. Communication is key. Talking with people, actually finding out what they want, what matters to the community. Getting involved in a lot of the community activities is not just having an event and saying, here's what I want you to do. It's actually asking people what do they want and trying to bring those items to the city of DeSoto. Right now that doesn't happen as frequently as it should, and I know no person is bigger than DeSoto. Not one seat on this council will be bigger than DeSoto. So I want to partner not only with the council, but also with the community to make sure that we hear what the voice of the DeSoto citizens say.
Councilman Burke?
Thank you. Our biggest challenge right now, I believe, is still and has been narrative. DeSoto is still an excellent place to live. It is where people come to prosper, to have a safe home, and to have a good lifestyle. DeSoto is actually where successful people live in the best Southwest. Not that the other cities don't have successful people, but growing up, I remember wanting to live in DeSoto because the name DeSoto was synonymous to Holland Park to me. And so when the narrative from within the house is different from the narrative, and the image that we need to exhibit outside the house is not the same. So the first thing we must do is start speaking well of ourselves. Because to get economic development, to get those people, they first look at what's in the paper, they hear what you say about yourself. And if we have people that are talking negative about the things that we know are wonderful, the prettiest area in the whole West Southwest is DeSoto. Most economic opportunities are in DeSoto. Most CEOs live in DeSoto.
Mr. Graham?
I think one of the biggest issues here is positivity. Along this journey, but also prior to this journey, there's so much discord going on from every level that I can think of. And I think one of the biggest things that President Barack Obama said was that instead of sit down and talk about the change, we have to be the change. So I think that it's very important that we, again, reunite and get everyone back on terms that we are moving in the right direction. This is the route we're going, but we have to create some positivity. We have to look at the glass half full instead of half empty, like many are doing. And I think that's the biggest thing, is bringing some positivity, because we have the development, we have the growth, we have the right people in their seats. We just need the people to understand and believe that positivity is a thing.
Question 3. What boards and/or commissions have you served on since living in the city of DeSoto? And how many city council meetings have you attended this past year? Councilmember Byrd?
That is a trick question. I believe I've only missed one city council meeting, and that's when I was traveling abroad with my good friend. We took a group to Israel. But I've served on the Economic Development Board. I'm on the Audit and Finance Committee Board. I was the original liaison for the Dallas Police Citizen Advisory Committee, Keep DeSoto Beautiful Board. Those are the boards that I can name just off the top of my head. There's many more, but that's a good start.
Mr. Graham?
So again, my wife and I built a home in late 2019 due to COVID. It got pushed back. However, I was looking at that time, our meetings were virtual. So I was attending some of those meetings, but also I thought it was important to understand where I live and who I'm surrounded by before I started to jump in and get my feet wet. However, I am the only person on our HOA board in our new development, Summit Parks. And I've been serving on that board since 2020. And since then, I have been trying to get involved in every aspect, but also trying to learn in the process.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes, I am actually sitting right now on the Parks and Recs board. I sit as the chair. I've been on the board since 2019. I was first appointed in 2019, reappointed in 2021. And I've been working on many of the activities that are going on in DeSoto. I've been through countless number of city council meetings, PNZ meetings, Mayor 360s, working for and through and advocating for DeSoto citizens. That won't stop. That's who I am. I also am an HOA manager, and I own an HOA management company that sits in DeSoto, and I serve on working with all HOAs, not just the ones that I actually manage, but those that are not the ones that I manage, because I want DeSoto to be beautiful. I want things to be well with all leaders within and throughout DeSoto.
Our city has a growing trash problem. If elected, what 2 or 3 actions will you take to help eliminate this situation? We will start with you, Mr. Graham.
I'm going to speak from my own experiences. I'm not from Texas, but this is one of my first cities that I've noticed that we had to purchase our own trash can. And what I'm noticing with a lot of my new neighbors in our new development is they're not taking the time to go buy that trash can. So what they're doing is they're placing their trash out in the alleyways, and we're having whatever animal go through them and break those and trash goes all through our neighborhood, but also I've seen a lot of people just littering. I think the biggest thing is to get everybody to understand the importance of a clean city. But also I think we have to come up with something which I think is already in the motion, and council is doing a mighty great job, and they're bringing, I think, a couple of options to the board to provide those trash cans and even possibly change the vehicle, because right now I've went through 3 trash cans because our guys have to dump all those trashes, so they're throwing it on there and then they're tossing it on the floor, and then my wheels are breaking. So I think it's very important that if we can get that.
Ms. Parker?
Okay, so as mentioned, the city council does have an initiative that's happening right now to deal with trash. The current trash that we have, the current trash provider that we have is up for renewal. And so some of that information is being put out to the public. I think it should be more. I think we should educate our public about trash and understanding how, they take a part in that. I do believe that trash cans are essential, but, not necessarily the only thing. I think people just need to know how to put the trash out. They need to be clearer about when trash days are and being able to be involved in the picking up and the collection of trash. So as an initiative, I would definitely be a part of those activities to help the DeSoto residents understand how and when trash actually goes out.
Councilmember?
Thank you. Currently, we have the Cadillac of waste removal twice a week, unlimited bulk, unlimited recycling. We have the Cadillac of that, and I think that's a very good program. We will fight hard to keep that intact. But also, when people throw trash out of their windows and they litter the streets, that is not something that the city can do. It's something that we must do collectively as a community. We must change the mindset and reinstill pride of ownership and pride of citizenship. I believe we need to talk more about being a citizen of DeSoto and what that looked like, very much like we would talk to our families about being a family member of this home. This is what we will do and what we don't do. This is how DeSotians act, and this is how we protect our neighborhood and protect our asset and protect our city.
We will now transition to a topic that is near and dear to all of us.
A city is only as good as its schools. With that in mind, how many school board meetings have you attended this past year? And what plans do you have for working with the school board to help make DeSoto the city of choice in the metroplex? Mr. Graham?
Good question. I have attended a few, I would say over 4 to 5 school board meetings, and something that I noticed is that, which I've also noticed in our council meetings, is we hold a lot of the recognitions for the city in the beginning of the meeting. So we have full packed out houses in the beginning of the school board meetings, and the same thing for council. And then as soon as we make those announcements, everyone scatters. So I think it's very important to get the parents involved, because they are very busy on Facebook, and it's negative. So I think if we get to those meetings and we talk to the superintendent, we hear what the president is doing, I think we have to build trust. I think that's one of the biggest things. I think the board is doing a great job currently, and I think we have some awesome candidates running for those seats. But I think the biggest thing is going to be to build that trust again. And in order to do that, we have to see those same people reaching out and opening those town hall meetings and asking those questions and answering those questions to the public.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes, so for school board meetings, I only attend online. I actually review a lot of those meetings. I believe because there's such a distinction of city council and then the school board, I think that some collaboration needs to take place. Right now, that collaboration is DeSoto Council is an entity and the school board is an entity. My goal would be to bring those two together in some fashion that would help, not only bridge the gap between what the city council does and how they can assist the school board and vice versa. So right now, I believe that there is some sense of need in the actual school board changes as far as the school board meetings and what actually is said during those meetings in order to help the students. So it's all about collaboration.
For those with questions, please write your question on a 3x5 index card. Now proceed to question 6. What do you believe are the top 1 or 2 leadership qualities that are ideal for a city council person to have? Which of these do you possess? We will start with you, Ms. Parker.
Okay, so for a person to sit on the council, first and foremost, I believe they should have a fiduciary mindset. A fiduciary works on behalf of others regardless of whether it benefits them, and I possess that in tenfold. I've been working on behalf of DeSoto, even when DeSoto didn't know I was working for DeSoto. So I believe every council member should have that. They also should have integrity and want to be transparent, because nothing is secret at this particular point in time. Everything should be put out in the front and made aware and available to DeSoto citizens, and clearer as far as what is going on with the city council and the city government. And I believe I hold that also in tenfold.
Councilman Byrd?
To sit on the city council is to represent not only the people in your place, but it's also to represent the entirety of the city. I believe that in order to do that, you must have vision. You must be a visionary. You must see how programs work within your area. You must understand how it affects other areas. Also, you must be a team player. I think it's important to understand that no one person can get a vote through by themselves. And so the continuity of vision and the idea of vision must also transcend not only to where you live, but what's good for the whole city. Lastly, I think you must be principled. You are pulled in every direction, every clique, every group have their own agenda, but you must be principled to the overarching idea that I'm here not only for one person or one group, I'm here for the entirety of the city.
Mr. Graham?
I think there's a plethora of things that are to sit in that seat you need, but I think one of the biggest things for me is going to be a heart for the people. I think it's very important that when you are being pulled in all those directions and having meetings after meetings and a time away from your loved ones, that it gets very difficult to continue to be available and continue to have a heart for the people and not try to tear them down or destroy them or even ignore them. I think the biggest thing that I bring to the table is just that heart for people. I am a licensed minister with the youth in my church, and I just think it's very important that those people, young people and everybody just feels involved. Sometimes you have to hear their complaints and just nod your head, but sometimes they need to hear from you instead of just a nod your head. And I think it's very important that we just don't lose and that that person that has that seat has a heart for the people.
According to the city's website, DeSoto is a city of over 60,955 residents, and it will add 10% to that number in the next 5 years. Growth such as this brings its own challenges. Share your thoughts about this type of growth. Mrs. Parker.
Yes, I believe that DeSoto is growing, and that is a wonderful thing for all that are already here and all that are coming. What I would like to see in DeSoto is that they are preparing for that growth. Bringing more businesses, working with their entrepreneurs, bringing, the people who, bringing access to capital funds for those entrepreneurs in order to bring businesses that will make it available for the people that are coming to DeSoto. Making certain that DeSoto is a place where you can not only live, you can work, and you can play. Those are the items that I would be on my agenda at all times, is to bring better things for DeSoto, for them to be able to do all that they want to do, live, work, and play in DeSoto.
Councilmember Byrd.
The growth of DeSoto is phenomenal. According to the census, in the next few years, we will be almost 87,256 people by 2045. That is tremendous, and I agree with Ms. Parker. We must prepare now for that growth. The current council, our job is not necessarily to legislate what's happening now. Our job is to vision DeSoto 5 years, 10 years from now. One of the things that I think that we should be looking at is diversity. A city must have more birth than it has death in order to be a viable city. In order to attract that younger generation, we have to have diversity in home ownership. Everyone don't want a 10,000, 5,000, 3,000 square foot home. Some people want a town home that they can own and start to build wealth and equity. So I believe diversity and opportunity in home ownership is important, as well as diversity and in every aspect of that word.
Mr. Graham?
I think the growth of DeSoto speaks highly of our city, and many people, including myself and my family, are moving to DeSoto. I think the biggest thing is that, like everyone is saying, that we prepare, and I think that we educate. We need to educate everyone currently that's in DeSoto that growth is coming, whether we want it or not, here it comes. And when it comes, how are we going to deal with it? How are we going to manage it? But also making sure that we are welcoming those people with open arms, letting them know what's going on in our city, where the move of our city is, but also having a place for them to live. Right now, we have to educate the citizens that multifamily or townhomes, some other type of housing has to be put in place in order for us to house the growth that's coming. So I think that we truly need to educate, but also be ready to open our arms and welcome all the people that are moving to this wonderful city.
How important is it for city leaders to be accessible to the public? What do you plan to do to make yourself accessible to your constituents? And we're starting with you, Councilman Burke.
I am accessible by phone, and I like in-person meetings. I am not big on town hall meetings. I want you to get the information, but I believe that the CMO report does a wonderful job. So we try to get people tied into the CMO report, but town hall meetings is not the vehicle that I use. I like group lunches. I like to get one-on-one with you. I answer phone calls. I return texts. That is the way that I stay in touch. We have something that we call Coffee with Councilman Byrd that is still going on, that is still vibrant. There is not one of you who have called and asked for a lunch meeting with me that I don't take time, take you to lunch, sit down and listen to whatever you have to say. And so that's the way that I think we continue to support this community. The big stuff, we let the newsletters handle that. The things that you are individually having problems with, we meet with you individually because this is your DeSoto as well as mine.
Mr. Graham?
I think it is truly important. Can you re-ask the question one more time? I was going somewhere else and I want to stay on cue.
How important is it for city leaders to be accessible to the public? What do you plan to do to make yourself accessible to your constituents?
Again, I think it's truly important to be accessible. I think one of the things when I was going this, a lot of my mentors and campaign manager and people were just like, you know, when you set up your email address, make sure it's going to us so we can respond. Come up with a Google number, and I just made it very important that I wanted my personal number on there. I wanted people to be able to reach me if they had questions, if they had disagreements, if they had anything they needed to ask or say. I wanted to make sure that I made myself available because I think it's very important to do so. I think it's also difficult to make yourself available to an entire city, but I think our council does a great job. I reach out to them multiple times and they respond. But I just think it's very important that we're accessible, but also that when we're responding, that we're trying to respond in a timely manner. And I think what I've done and what I bring to the table is just an open door policy. I think that's the most important.
Ms. Parker?
Yes, I am actually already accessible in DeSoto. I actually work with many of the leaders that are sitting in DeSoto, many of the homeowners that are sitting in DeSoto. I'm constantly available. They have my phone number, they have my email. I'm talking directly to the council. I'm always talking to them now, so I would be expecting that I would do exactly what they do. They would respond to my emails and my texts and the information about things that are going on in the city of DeSoto. But I'd also like to bring about some more pop-up opportunities out in and through DeSoto to make certain that people not only just hear me, they see me, that I'm involved in things that they're involved in, making certain that I hear what they want. And that is how I plan to move forward, not just today, but any day after today. Thank you.
We will now proceed with questions from the audience in the Zoom chat. And we've received quite a few questions, and so it's great to see that the community and the audience is engaged here with us today.
What will you do to protect single-family neighborhoods from an overgrowth of large apartment complexes, which bring traffic, crowding, and noise? Mr. Byrd, Councilmember Byrd.
one of the things that we must be balanced, we must be a balanced community. The idea of single-family home ownership, your home is probably your highest investment. It is important that we have things in place, which this council have already put in place, things to protect the neighborhoods, things to protect the value of your homes, things to protect your asset. The idea as far as apartments as that go, there has to be strategic planning for where apartments come. We have to look at it to see if we oversaturated. Is there an opportunity at what level that those apartments need to be at? Class A, double class, those type of things are very important, but it must be strategically placed and not just willy-nilly as developers want to place them.
Mr. Graham?
This question hits home because I am a new development director for multifamily. So I think it's very important that we again educate that we have to have multifamily in order to continue to grow in our city. But also a lot of people, what I'm noticing is they are not familiar with apartments in 2023. They still have the mindset of apartments back in the day. And apartments have changed tremendously. I build luxury A+ communities, it's ABC. We have some C communities, and those are going to be your government funded and stuff like that. But I think it's very strategic that we have to be strategic in what we allow in our city, but also educating what that could bring. If you look on Beltline, we just built a beautiful Class A multifamily, and now we have Dutch Brothers coming, and several other companies are now looking to come. So I think in order to grow, we want sit-down restaurants, we want healthy options, we want all these things. I think the apartment industry is going to bring some of those things here.
Mrs. Parker?
So my idea is, yes, we do have to think in terms of what's actually coming. I am not necessarily a proponent for more apartments to come. I think we have a lot that's already in DeSoto that need to be revamped and revitalized. I believe that, the city council in some cases could put in place a housing task force that actually looks at the housing in DeSoto to try to protect not only the single families, the subdivisions, and the existing apartments, but right now there is no housing task force. There's no one talking together to talk through those things, and I want to be able to put that in place or be a part of putting that in place in order for us to look at what DeSoto really needs. Is apartments the ideal? I don't know. I don't want that to be the thought process. So I want to make certain that we do protect the neighborhoods, not only the single families, but not only the non-HOAs, but the HOAs in DeSoto.
And Mr. Graham, we are going to start with you with this next question from the audience. Tell us about the Hampton Road redevelopment plan.
The Hampton Road Development Plan is going to, it's trying or will create more walkability in our city. Our walkability score currently, in the state of Texas, runs very low. And I think what the city is doing is they're trying to give us not only a facelift, but they're starting from the ground up. So if you look behind on Beltline, they've already started demolition on some of those older buildings. I think when you come to DeSoto, if you came to DeSoto 10 years ago and you come to DeSoto in 2023, it may look exactly the same. And I think their goal here is to make it beautiful and continue to grow, but also make it a more downtown vibe. So you can walk to a restaurant, you can walk to a boutique. And I think that is very important to try while we're growing, that we need to continue to make sure that we are growing in our developments as well. So I think the Hampton project is going to be an amazing, great project for the city.
Councilman Byrd?
Hampton Road redevelopment will be the place and the identity of DeSoto. It would be the place where people would want to be, green spaces, walkability to restaurants, healthcare. It will be the place. When you think about DeSoto, right now we think about exquisite homes, wonderful parks, but we don't necessarily think about retail. Hampton Road will be the catalyst that will bring together high-end retailers, high-end restaurants, those things that we've been asking for, the quality of life amenities that we've been asking for. Hampton Road would be the place that will galvanize all of that. It will be the place, and it will be the identity of DeSoto. When you think about DeSoto, you would think about the beautiful bridge that brings you over on Hampton Road into the downtown area. You would think about walkabilities, the streetscapes where you can walk and also bike. You would think about having bistros outside of your sidewalk. You would think about having coffee in the morning and, if you would, a drink in the evening.
So in my mind, the Hampton Road project is the biggest thing to be able to bring people out of their homes. That is what DeSoto is all about, is it has people who are in their homes that need to come out and be a part of the community. This is a place where it will be able to bring together a lot of the people in the city of DeSoto, as opposed to people going other cities to do their regular business and being able to eat in DeSoto, being able to play in DeSoto, being able to work in DeSoto. Those are the items that I think Hampton Road project will bring. And I am a proponent for Hampton Road. I'd love for us to get there. We've been on that road for a minute now. I would like for us to begin doing that in order to bring DeSoto to be a more connected city.
What is your definition of integrity? And have you been active in the DeSoto community? If so, please elaborate. Ms. Parker.
My definition of integrity is doing what is right, whether anyone is looking or not. And I've been doing that in tenfolds. I work with communities right now that may or may not want to change. They may or may not want their to follow the rules. But I make certain that I am there to help their leaders to enforce those rules in order to make things simpler for the entire neighborhood. And integrity means you have to just do it, regardless of whether you're going to be liked, whether you're going to be the most popular, but that you're doing what is right. And that, to me, means integrity. And everything I do today is already going in that direction. I'm already working with the people of DeSoto.
Councilmember Burke.
Integrity is doing what is right, whether or not it's popular or not. Doing the same thing in private as you would in public. That is integrity. People will know that when you speak, you're speaking from truth, whether or not it benefits you or hurt you. They can count on the words that you say and your actions to be synonymous.
Mr. Graham.
Like Ms. Parker said, I think integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking. And I think that is a very important thing that we all need to have, is integrity. Is just trying and doing the best we can. It's a golden rule: treat others like you want to be treated. And I just think that that's what integrity is.
Thank you. Councilman Burke, what are your thoughts about taxes in DeSoto?
Taxes can always be lower. Amen. That is my thought. We need to lower, this council, as well as the previous council, we've lowered taxes. Our city taxes have gone down, and actually this last budget season, our taxes actually went down. Again, since I've been on council, we have not raised taxes one time. We've only taken taxes down. However, we do understand that the money you pay have gone up because of appraisals. What we're currently doing is working with our state senators, our state representatives, and even the governor of the great state of Texas to talk about how are you going to use that surplus of money and help our residents with their tax issue, with the growing tax burden. I have several people in my congregation who live in DeSoto who are losing their homes because they worked hard, but when they went into retirement, they cannot afford to pay their taxes. That is a big problem. So we need the surplus from Austin to help us offset that.
Mr. Graham?
I think property taxes is high. Amen. I think one of the biggest things is educating people on property taxes. When we built our home, we paid a certain amount, and then a year later, we got a $10,800 bill that it had to be due within a certain amount of time. And as a first-time home buyer, I would have never known that, and thank God we were able to pay that. But there's so many people that I know that aren't in that position, and it hurts. So I think the biggest thing is, I think DeSoto has done a phenomenal job. The last 10 years, the council has lowered taxes. The last 2, they kept it the same. But again, they're going up because our property value, as much as we want our property value to go up, we don't want people losing their homes for that. But the Texas state just passed billions and billions of dollars, and I'm hoping that with that, it will trickle down to DeSoto, and we will be able to assist further, because property taxes is way too high. They need to cut it.
Ms. Parker?
Well, I won't necessarily go that route. I'll just say, yes, they are high. Right now, the city of DeSoto, I would like for the city of DeSoto to do some homework on those things. Do some research. Find ways that we can do some reductions. Is there a possibility that reductions can happen? I know at the state level, they are in the midst of that bill. That bill has not passed yet. It passed one part of the Congress, and it's now in the House. I'm a proponent for the homestead exemption being increased as opposed to property taxes being leveraged on the appraisals, because the appraisals are every year. The homestead exemption, if it's moved to a point where it can be higher to offset, I believe that's where the tax savings will come from. And in my mind, that's what I would be being a proponent for.
How can residents trust that you will bring in retail and sit-down restaurants? Mr. Graham?
For the last 10 years in new development, it's been my job to go out and not only approach council and many different cities and states, but also pitch to these major companies and wonderful restaurants. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is I have to be able to tell them why this is the best city. Currently, my family owns a lot of franchises in the state of California, and I'm pitching right now. I was at a franchise meeting a couple of weeks ago here, and I'm pitching right now to the owner of Lolo's Chicken and Waffles. And one of his biggest things is I went through all the growth of DeSoto, and he was like, oh my God, what is this city in Texas? You know, they're in South Lake, and I just think the biggest thing is in educating them on where DeSoto is headed, where DeSoto is now, with those numbers, and then they will come. There are several people that want to come, but they also need franchisees that are willing to put their money where their mouth is. So I think the biggest thing to bring those big box places and retailers here is to let them know that DeSoto's on the move.
Mrs. Parker?
My goal would be to work with the actual economic development to work to bring businesses that bring jobs to DeSoto. So those businesses that's where my trust I would hope that people would put trust in me, is that I'm working in regards on their behalf to bring businesses that work for DeSoto, not just, any business, but businesses that work for DeSoto, that make DeSoto a better place. And so most of my work would be in that line, and talking with not only the businesses, but also you have a lot of entrepreneurs sitting right in DeSoto's. Find ways to bring those entrepreneurs out of their homes and bring them into actual brick and mortar, so that you can have what you already have right here in DeSoto. Now you have them in places where they're bringing services to the citizens of DeSoto from a brick and mortar.
Councilmember Burke?
I'm currently the liaison for the Economic Development Corporation and the council. I currently spend $20 to $25 per week meeting with people within that organization and outside of our city walls to bring economic development. I currently spend $300 to $500 per month taking developers out, talking to restaurant owners in other parts of the city, bringing them personally, touring them through our city of DeSoto to show them what they're missing. I'm personally already doing that. I believe that if I'm allowed to continue the work, that in the next year or so, you're going to see some economic development off 35. We are currently in meetings talking to developers about a new development, new areas. It takes time, but hopefully we've proven to you that we can do it, that we have done it, and we will continue to do it. I promised you, if you gave us a stipend, that I would give every dime of that back, and I have kept true to my word. Thank you.
On that note, Councilman Brown, Burke, sorry. If you received a $1 million grant to use in the city in any way that you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
Wow. if I received $1 million grant in the city of, in DeSoto, I would redevelop a plot of land that's in my area that is currently an eyesore on the corner of Wintergreen and 35. I would use that money to build a relationship with other entrepreneurs to come and make that entrance, that first northern entrance into our city, just absolutely knocked out. When people drive down, when they exit off 35, 35 is our frontage road, that is our growth area, if you would. If we're not on Hampton Road, 35 would be our next area. I would use it for economic development.
Ms. Parker?
My idea would be around remote workers and entrepreneurs, bring them out of their homes, find ways to increase their access to capital, to bring them actually into the city of DeSoto. And then I'd use part of that money towards the roads. I've always been a big proponent for roads being the physical infrastructure is important when it comes to bringing all these businesses, because if you have a lot of breakdowns and bad roads, then that actually turns businesses off from being in certain places. So I want to make certain that we not only tackle bringing remote workers and entrepreneurs into the city, but also making sure the city has the great roads in order for them to travel.
Mr. Graham?
I would split it into 3 at 33 1/3%, and one of that portion I would give to our current entrepreneurs that are in the city struggling or wanting to get into an actual facility or build in a facility or give their facility a facelift. And then the second portion I would give to youth entrepreneurs. I think that we have to, when the world is going, we have to encourage our youth more to do what they're doing, but also give them the platform to do so. And then the third, I would just put into more development of the current businesses that are already in place. I think DeSoto has a lot of entrepreneurs, and I think that in developing new, I think if we can help the current people that are already in place, it could help our city a lot.
Do you think DeSoto's downtown area is inviting and attractive to those visiting the city? How would you improve it, Ms. Parker?
Well, no, I don't think it's necessarily inviting. There are things that could be done differently. Right now, the city sits on a hill, and I like to take advantage of more of that, making sure that we bring, as I said, there's a lot of open spaces and parks. Make sure those parks are ready for people to come out and play, and also make them workable. I'm a big proponent for remote workers being able to work in the park, being able to work in these other locations. And then to me, once you bring the people out of the areas, you will actually have businesses want to, stagnate right around the city hall. Right now, that doesn't occur, and that's what I would be working towards.
Councilmember Byrd?
Well, the nuance is that DeSoto was built without a downtown. Currently, there is no designated downtown area in DeSoto. That's why the Hampton Road project is so important. We must create destination. We must create identity. We must do those things that was not done when DeSoto was originally developed.
Mr. Graham?
He took it right out of my mouth, but if I closed your eyes and took you to downtown Dallas or downtown Austin or downtown Houston, and then I took the blindfold off, you would immediately know that I'm downtown. I think the biggest thing is here in DeSoto, we don't have that. So that's why we are creating and implementing Hampton Road projects, so that when you do come to DeSoto, you know that you are downtown and that you feel the downtown vibes.
What do you see as the council's roles and responsibilities? We'll start with you, Ms. Parker.
The council's role is a policy-making body. They are there to work on behalf of the citizens of DeSoto and bring about policy that works for DeSoto. And all of the people that sit on that board has to have a fiduciary duty for the citizens of DeSoto and work on behalf of DeSoto.
Councilman Byrd?
Our duties is to make sure that your dollars, your tax dollars are working best for you, that you have a place to take your family, you have a safe and beautiful city, that the city services actually meet you where you want to live. It represents the lifestyle that you want to have. I agree that it takes people that have proven records in business, proven in integrity, proven and principled and passionate about our city, to look beyond where she is and see the options of what she could be.
Mr. Graham?
As a city council member, you are a policy maker. You have a responsibility to the residents and citizens of the city. But furthermore, you have to handle the concerns of the people, the staff, and everything that's going on in the city. So again, I think it falls back to they are the policy makers for the city for today and moving forward in the future.
Thank you. And that concludes our City Council Candidate Forum 2023. Please give each candidate a round of applause. All right, each candidate will be given an opportunity to make a 1-minute closing statement. And we'll start with Councilman Byrd.
Thank you again for this opportunity to speak to you. I want you to know that I have been at every forum because I don't take your vote for granted. I am the incumbent, I'm the mayor pro tem, but I still want to earn your vote. And I still take these opportunities to speak to you and ask you, when you go to the polls, remember the guy who's been working for you. I moved to DeSoto because I had an image in my head of what DeSoto stood for. The lifestyle, the beauty, what it symbolized simply by saying I live in DeSoto. We are standing up to protect that ideology, that DeSoto still is a place where business owners, professionals, is still the place where successful people want to live. I would very much appreciate your vote so that we can continue this work with this incredible council, this wonderful mayor. We ask for your vote. Please vote for Andre Byrd. Thank you.
Ms. Parker?
Yes, I want to make certain that I reiterate as well that I have been working in and throughout DeSoto. I've lived in DeSoto for over 20 years, and there has always been so much to love. We now have that tagline, but we've always had that tagline. And so I want to make certain that the citizens of DeSoto know that I am working on behalf of them, even in my seat as I sit now, and I'm always going to. But I do want your vote. I want to be better positioned to work on behalf of you and to give your voice a voice. Thank you. Pete Parker, 4place2.com. Thank you.
Mr. Graham?
Again, I am just so grateful to be even sitting in this seat right now, and this has been a wonderful journey. I just want to thank everybody, to be 29 years old and sitting in this seat has been challenging, and I'm learning a lot, but I think that my biggest thing for DeSoto is reunite. I think that in the peaks of DeSoto, we were all on the same page, and I believe that we have so much coming that we have to get everybody from the school board to the city council to the staff and down to the residents and stakeholders of DeSoto on the same page. And I just think if we all come together, we can get everything we need done. My website is DeSotogram.com. Please reach out if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. I do have a table with cards. If you guys need anything, that is my personal information. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Please give each candidate another round of applause. Now we will recess for 5 minutes to transition to the school board candidate forum. Thank you.
council candidate. Could you please make your way to the dais, please? Thank you. School board, I said city council, as the school board candidates are making their way to the front, we need you to know that this forum is live on the CDC webpage, and everyone can also, on the CDC's Facebook page, you can let your friends know, but you'll also be able to watch it there later on the CDC's Facebook page.
How are you doing? I'm
Also, there are 5 cards on the table at the back, and also we have the leadership of CDC and the chamber have 3x5 cards. You can write questions down, and our moderators will do their best to see those questions. Thank you.
he know what he's doing.
I'm going to tell you the judge is getting ready to say order in the court. We will turn it over to the judge if we don't get order in just a moment. Please take your seats. School board candidates, please take your seats. And we will get the second half of our forum underway. Again, you can ask any questions you like on these 3x5 cards, and we will do our best to have our moderators ask them. Also, this forum is live currently on CDC's Facebook page, a same place that you will be able to watch it later.
I mean, it's the very nice, you know, they from I mean, they got really very nice.
Thank you for your attention. We appreciate your cooperation. We're going to go ahead and get started. And would you one more time please give a DeSoto welcome to our moderators, Judge Aisha. My mind just went red. And our student judge.
We'll actually start with Mr. Patrick here.
Welcome to the school board candidate forum. We'll begin by reading the rules. Each candidate will make an initial 1-minute address in alphabetical order of last name within the numerical order of the place numbers. Unopposed candidates will be allowed to participate in the 1-minute opening and closing addresses, but will not participate in the questioning portion of the forum. The first round of questions will follow the order of the initial addresses. The second round of questions will begin with the next person, and so on for each additional question.
All questions will be presented by one of the moderators. Each question will be read once unless the candidate requests the question be repeated. The candidate will begin speaking when the moderator calls his or her name. If the question needs to be repeated, it may be requested at that time. Each candidate will be permitted 1 minute to answer the question. A 1-minute summary address will be allowed each candidate at the end of the forum. The sequence will be in the reverse order of the initial addresses, both numerically and alphabetically.
Questions will be collected from the audience and used if time permits. Questions from the audience must be written on the 3x5 cards provided at the registration table and given to either Dorothy Pierce, CDC's Vice President for Programming, Gayla Burton, CDC's Vice President for Membership, or Vanessa Sterling, DeSoto Chamber of Commerce's CEO. Questions can be also posed via Zoom's chat feature.
We will now proceed with opening statements, starting with Ms. Karen Lacey.
Hello everyone, my name is Karen Lacey and I am running for DeSoto ISD Board of Trustees, place 3. I am number 2 on the ballot. I have lived in DeSoto for 18 years. Also, I am an educator. I've worked in education for 23 years. I have 2 adult children who are products of DeSoto ISD. My son graduated in 2014, number 3 in his class. He was as gifted academically as he was athletically. Currently, he is, going through his ups and downs in the NFL. My daughter, she graduated in 2017. She was number 32 in her class. Kind of struggled in math, but we overcame. She went to University of Houston, and she is working in her, what we call her career job now, where she doesn't need mom's money. We love DeSoto, and we love DeSoto ISD. We love the students of DeSoto, England Heights. We want...
Ms. Marsha Roberson.
Hello everybody, good morning. So my husband and I recently purchased a home here in DeSoto in December of 2020. And as soon as that we've been here, we've been looking at the area and figuring out how we can become involved in the neighborhoods. So just like many of you, some of our largest investments are here in this area, specifically in the school zone. I have my daughter and I have my 2 nieces that are also enrolled in the school district. I am professionally trained as a scientist, which in Latin means I'm an expert of knowledge, but my specific area of expertise is chemistry. I'm an expert at looking at data, trends, and looking at how policies are implemented at the bench side. I've been using policies in everything that I do, and I have been held to utmost integrity in everything that I do. I have been given a certain amount of money that comes from federal government in order to operate research grants. I have been on the university senates. I have taught students. I have worked in all kinds of different facets, but I have a wherewithal of experiences that I believe could be valuable to support the leadership in the school district, and that's what I'm here to do.
Mr. James Durham.
Yes, my name is James Durham, and I won't get to answer a lot of questions because I'm running unopposed, but quickly. I lived in DeSoto for 28 years, my wife and I. We had 3 kids to come through the DeSoto ISD school system. And so we built 2 houses here in DeSoto, one in 95 and one in 2006. They're a mile apart, so that lets you know how vested I am in DeSoto. I am all about kids. I love kids. I tutor kids through my educational services business afterwards, and I'm asking for your vote for place 4. Thank you.
Trustee Ed Cooper Jr.
Greetings all. It is great to be here. My name is Abe Cooper Jr. I am the current or the incumbent for trustee place 5 in DeSoto ISD, serving on the board since 2020. I've been a resident of DeSoto for 24 years. I am a husband, I am a father, my wife Dion is my rock, and my children, one is about to graduate from TCU, and she went through the DeSoto schools, and my son is currently a senior at DeSoto High School, due to graduate in May as well. I love children. I love serving the community of DeSoto. It has been a pleasure. It has been a life of service for me, and I enjoy just seeing students succeed. And so I would like to have your vote. I don't need your money, just your vote. Thank you.
David Ederson.
Good morning. Good morning, Good morning, DeSoto and Glen Heights. It's a pleasure to be before you this morning. My name is David Anderson. I go by Dawu. Dawu means beloved, which is the same meaning as David. And all of my friends and loved ones refer to me as Dawu. So that's why you see the moniker. But let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, born and raised. I came to Texas to attend the best school in the nation, Prairie View A&M University. And it made a huge difference and impact on my life. From my training at Prairie View, I went into education and I started as a substitute teacher and I worked my way through the ranks as a teacher, principal, coach, and then eventually at the central office level as a supervisor, coordinator, and then finally a special education director. So I have vast experience, over 3 decades of experience in education. Now I was kicked out of high school. Let me rephrase that. I was pushed out. I'll finish later.
First question. Community leaders realize that work is not done alone and recognize the power of leveraging community partners to effectively solve problems and provide innovative solutions that impact our community on a number of levels. How will you build consensus and support in the community around the work of the school district? Who do you bring with you to the table? Ms. Lacy.
Well, I think how we bring consensus, number one, is to highlight the achievement and the successes that we have experienced. So when you think about the career technology at the high school, think about the culinary arts, the cosmetology, those type of programs, we can highlight the successes and the talents that those teachers bring to the table and the work that the students are producing. We also can get people in the community to come and partner with us where they can also work in those type of capacities. Being that we're a district of innovation, that means that if we have an engineering program, we can have engineers in the community that will be able to come and work with our students. If we have, for instance, the beautiful culinary cafeteria that they have, we can have a restaurant in our campus also that would be able to highlight some of the skills that the students have. We have a great courtroom there. We can get some of our judges and attorneys to come and work in. We highlight.
Mrs. Roberson.
So I believe that you should go and meet people where they are. Everything that you would like to do that's successful in communities is always based upon schools, homes, and your churches. So I think that we should go there and see how we can always build bridges to basically booster up those things that we need to. So yes, go out to the community and see what trades are there. See how we can actually interact with folks and see how we can leverage and network and create pipelines that how we're training our students in their industrial certifications and their interests. We can establish those pipelines and use our community to complement their training. Likewise, being involved with the PTA, the parent leadership community, with Moms on a Mission, my husband's on Dad's on Duty, and just we're pretty much trying to figure out how we can make those connections all the way from the little kids all the way to the larger kids. So we're in the process with Moms on a Mission doing a tea. You know, Dad's on Duty, he basically goes out and talks to young men. And then on Tuesdays, I'm with homework help. I tutor children every Tuesday, regardless of the subject.
Trustee Cooper.
So what we've done here in DeSoto ISD currently is work well with the city council and the mayor's office. Those were two important relationships that we wanted to establish so that we could really get a good feel on what the community wants, what's in the community, what's available in the community for us to partner with. The next thing we did was we hold town halls, bi-monthly town hall meetings. This also gives us an opportunity to show the community what we are doing, to see what they would have to align with what we can do. And so our responsibility as trustee members is to connect the city with the school district so that the superintendent can take our advice on where we want it to go in the connections and build those relationships that we have. And so that's what we've done currently in DeSoto.
Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. So to expand on that, in addition to connecting with the DeSoto community. It's also important to connect with the Glen Heights community as well. We need to make sure we're not leaving anyone out of the equation. The question was who would be at the table: businesses, civic organizations. Let's not forget students. They have a voice and they have a stake in this whole deal, so it's important that we bring them to the table. Another thing that we need to do, sometimes we leave out departments in our school systems. We listen to we hear from our teachers and our administrators, and the campus leadership, but a lot of times we don't hear from the departments. And so people in the departments that help the operation of the school district have a lot of things to say because they see a lot and they have a different perspective. So we come to a room and we build a coalition and we have strategic planning sessions and we just work hard and strategically to get the concerns met.
Mrs. Roberson, we will begin with you. Question number 2. What current issues would be your top priority if elected over the next 3 years?
So I believe the top priorities are going to be student outcomes and achievement. Then also looking at our talent, making sure that we have a diverse set of teachers that feel respected and revered and equipped to do their jobs. And in order to do that, we have to look at discipline. And then also making sure that we are being responsible stewards of our community's investments and assets. So it's going to be those 3. And that's, those are what I plan to tackle. I guess I can tell you that I've looked at different policies. I've been allowed to handle large amounts of budgets, and I've traveled as a diplomat. I have the high security clearance, and I've done all these things with the responsibility. So I believe that I can bring those types of skill sets to achieve those policies in collaboration if part of the team of 8.
Trustee Cooper?
The main thing that we're dealing with right now is bringing students back to DeSoto. And so we're trying to create programming that will be attractive to the families that are in our community. And so we've invested in our pre-K program to have them at their own campus so that we can build that up. And we have specialized programming that we've created at campuses throughout the district. And so those are the things bringing parents back. So how do we do that is to enhance our product. If we want the parents to buy into DeSoto ISD, we have to give them a product that they can be proud of, one that they can believe in. And so having good teachers, having good administrators, that has been our plan. So teacher retention is also, but I won't go into that till later.
Mr. Anderson?
It's important that we focus on 3 areas which are my priority platform issues. Number 1, teachers and students. And here's the important part to remember. Students are why we do the business that we do. We have to make sure we have to change the culture and the climate in DeSoto and in Glen Heights so that families want to come back. But without good teachers, then you're gonna be in a situation where you're falling short. We've got to do a better job taking care of our teachers so that we don't have the exodus that we've been experiencing not only here in DeSoto but across Texas, actually across the nation. So we've got to fix that. The other thing we have to do is we have to triple down on this violence that's going on in our schools. Both the violence that's happening with students and teachers and students, as well as external violent threats. And physical safety is important, but we also have to remember mental and emotional well-being as well. Because we're coming out of COVID, we're coming out of other situations, and people need help. Thank you.
Mrs. Lacy?
My priority would be academic achievement, because if we think about just collectively board goals 1, 2, and 3, they all tie together, because if we talk about college, career, military readiness, and also early numeracy, early literacy skills, if our students are not receiving a high quality instruction in the classroom to increase early numeracy, early literacy, they're not going to be ready for college and careers post-graduation, which the data does show that. So we need to shore up what is happening in the classrooms as it relates to high quality instruction, making sure that our teachers are trained properly, whatever they're trained on, making sure we have proper implementation of the pedagogy that they're using, their teaching skills, the data analysis to make sure we're able to refine and improve whatever outcomes we're seeing from the student, because it all goes back to that. What's happening in the classroom, what are the students learning, and what are they able to demonstrate?
What are the factors on which you will base your decisions as a school board member? Trustee Cooper?
When it comes to making decisions, I have to always ask this question: is this about me, or is this about what's best for the children? And at the end of the day, when I make those decisions, it's based on what's best for the children. And I am also a representative of the people that voted for me, and all the people of DeSoto and Glen Heights. And so the decision can't be based on what I want. It's what the students need and what the families believe they need for their children.
Mr. Edgerson?
Decisions will be based on data. Decisions will be based on best practices and research. Decisions will be based on the fiduciary resources that accompany whatever the matter is that's at hand. Does the district have the resources to fund whatever initiative or mandate? So decisions have to be made in conjunction with the whole team of 8. So essentially, data and research is going to be my guiding factor when making decisions. And then I'm also going to always keep my eye on the budget, because we cannot, and which is my last priority, is the financial part piece. We cannot overspend. We cannot have expenditures that's going to put us in danger, as was in years past. Thank you.
Mrs. Lacey?
Decisions will be based on a policy, because the policy is your foundation. So we decide what is it that we are aiming to do and how are we operating. There's a policy that drives that. That policy is also driven by state law, the Texas Education Code, also the Department of Education. We have IDEA, which is the Individual with Disabilities Educational Act. We have those type of frameworks or policies that guide our policies that we make. So decisions will be based on that, also based on the data. How are the students achieving? What do they need to be successful? And also based on the funding that we have. What is the biggest bang that we can get for our bucks? Because we need to look at high leverage moves when it comes to academic achievement and making decisions that will benefit students.
Mrs. Robertson?
So okay. So I believe that my decisions will be mission driven. So the mission is to help our students succeed, prepare them for any career that they want so that they can be their best selves. And in order to do that, I will be looking at the data, looking at where our inputs are, where our outputs are, what measures are they taking, are they going along the lines of the board goals? And the other thing that I would be looking at is how can we maximize our resources and minimize our expenses so we can give our students and our teachers the environment, the equipment, the preparation they need to succeed. In order to do that, again, I would be looking at data and doing all of those things alongside the policies that we're required to do and along the lines that will support the superintendent in her leadership.
Thank you. And this next question, we'll start with you, Mr. Edgerson. What is your approach to closing the social and academic gaps caused and exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic?
So there are some measures that have already been undertaken, such as House Bill 4545, but that needs some tweaking. So we have to focus on how do we concentrate on the students who experience the most loss. And again, I talked about research. What are the best research-based practices to catch kids up? We also have to make sure that we're doing things like, because being a local school board trustee, I'm part of an organization that we go to Austin during the legislative session, and we sit before the Senate and the House Committees on Education, and we advocate. And so what I would take to them is, how are you going to what are you going to do to help ensure the surplus? How much money are you all going to devote to education with this $50+ billion surplus that we have? And I lost my train of thought. What was the question?
Social academic gap.
Social academic gap. So yeah, I just want to close with that. I'm sorry, give me 5 seconds. We're going to close the gaps by doing that.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. White?
As stated by Mr. Edgerson, we do have House Bill 4545, but it does kind of need to be refined because of the fact that with that bill, you do have to provide extra minutes of instruction for all students. If that meant that student was sick on the testing day, if they failed, or if they just protested and didn't want to take a test. All students must receive those additional minutes. But in even doing so, we need to find time for some tutoring time, some small group time for students as we look at the data to monitor the improvement. We need to have some targeted and specific groups of students that we're working with, maybe having Saturday schools where you invite certain students who are low on a particular skill to come and get some extra help. Same way after school, before school, because there are tutoring times that all teachers have. So those would be some of the things that I would do to work on that. Also with the social part, you know, we have the brain breaks and...
Mrs. Robertson?
So in order to close the social and academic gap, I think it's important, one, to reach the parents to make sure that they understand, you know, what the expectations are for the students and how they can also help. And I think one of the things that we can do as a community, and hopefully in support or through the school district, if possible, if the funds are there, I think if we have enrichment programs, summer camps that can help with the learning loss that occurs between the spring and the fall semesters, or any kind of social organizations that can tackle personal growth for these students, but also supplement with academic enrichment, specifically in areas of remediation, like they're learning with literacy and numeracy at each of the different levels. I think we have an opportunity to rear up our children all the way from pre-K through their college and professional lives by looking at programs specific to their interests and then backdooring ways to help them with social emotional intelligence and ways to support their teachers with metacognition and learning pedagogy strategies so they understand how to learn and learn how to think, and they can excel on any kind of career or academic rigor that's required of them.
Trustee Cooper?
What we actually did was, since we've been through 3 superintendents since COVID-19, and we're on the 3rd one now, we're finally settling in on having a superintendent that's able to diagnose the problems that we have. Numeracy was actually, math was actually our hardest thing that we had to face. And so we purchased, within the budget, we purchased software that would allow our students to catch up. We also have incorporated technology more within our schools, and actually that we learned that by going into COVID, how we can better use technology, and it has made a difference where our students are able to access those things, especially math, from their devices. And yes, we have provided devices for each student in our district so that they can have access to all of the technology, all of the information they would need, especially regarding math.
Scott, describe your view of the roles of the school board and the superintendent. What is the ideal relationship between these 2 positions? Mrs. Robertson?
So, so the role of the school board in complement to the superintendent, there are responsibilities in making sure that you set the board vision and goals. Those board visions and goals are based on the desires and the academic expectations on the precedents that the community has established. You are also responsible for evaluating the superintendent and how well they're able to lead their administration and their delegates of teachers towards those goals. And so there's a responsibility of hiring and firing the superintendent if they are not performing as expected by the community. You're also a steward of the community's investments and their money and making sure that all of the programs set forth in the school district are responsibly taken under with respect to the commodities and the resources in that school district. And then also partnering and liaising with the community and making sure that their voices are continuously being heard and respected, and that seeing if there's a way that we can integrate answers to their questions, to their needs, so that they are consistently satisfied and retained within our school district.
Trustee Cooper?
To not do her job. That's the most important thing. The school board is there to support the superintendent. Yes, she's our only employee, but when it comes to what we create, the guidelines, those constraints, we cannot go beyond our board policy and constraints, and that is not to do her job. So what do we have to do? We have to create the space for her to succeed because she is our only employee. And when she succeeds, the children will succeed. And so that's the main thing when it comes to the relationship with school board and with superintendent. Don't do her job. Let her do her job, but put her in the space to succeed.
Mr. Anderson?
So likewise, there are certain parameters. School boards are, they're trusted with creating a tax base, setting a tax rate, accepting, approving a budget, hiring, firing, evaluating the superintendent, and developing policies and goals in conjunction with the vision and the values of the community. School superintendents, they take all that into consideration and they drive that bus down the road using those policies and constraints as guardrails. Superintendents make the decisions as to personnel, they make decisions as far as curriculum. They make all the decisions that matter within a school system under, as long as they're sticking to policy. And so the two entities must work together and they must form relationships and build the bonds of trust. And so that's where school board superintendent retreats come into play. And that's it.
Mrs. Lacy?
I would say that the role definitely must include respect and professionalism. It should be one where you have the school board who represent the wants from the community as it relates to how they want their school district to, you know, what they want it to look like, how they want it to represent the community. And they hire the superintendent who is able to execute whatever it is, her talents, her skills, whatever plans that she has in order to bring that about, the academic achievement that we want, the reverence that we want to represent the affluent community that we live in. And it should be one where they're supporting the superintendent, where they're giving her space to do her job, where if they see that something is not going the way they want to, where they give opportunities for her to refine or maybe make suggestions and challenge her thinking so that we can continue to be going on a forward, positive path.
Trustee Cooper, we will start with you with this next question. If a parent or a principal comes to you regarding, for example, a maintenance issue at a particular campus or a situation involving a particular teacher, how do you see your role as a school board member in resolving that issue?
I will report it to the superintendent and allow her to go through her process of dealing with the situation and ask her for a follow-up so that if she did not reach out to the parent or the staff member, then I will see if she would want me to. But 9 times out of 10, it works that way. Once I'm given the situation, I give it to the superintendent and just ask for a follow-up to see where we are in that situation. But allowing her to do it is the way to go so that we can keep the order of the staffing in our district.
Mr. Edgerson?
Thank you for that. So likewise, school board trustees don't make decisions in silos. School board trustees can only make decisions as a board with a quorum and a duly noted meeting. But you can't take the stakeholder, the constituents' concern to the superintendent so that the superintendent can act on it and be aware that here are some concerns that exist in our community. And so I think that's important to do. It's also important to follow up with the person, the individual, and say, I took your concern to the superintendent or to the appropriate person, and I want you to know that it is being addressed or it is being looked into. And then you can also give the individual information, which department or campus that they can also call or go visit to also, let their concern be known as well.
Mrs. Lacy?
So the steps I would take would be to make sure that the parent did have the correct people to contact on the campus or departments. Because sometimes you may be reporting it to, the incorrect person and it may fall through the cracks. So I want to make sure that they're doing that. In addition to that, I would also let the superintendent know of the concern. I would also send an email to let, the superintendent and also the parent to give some feedback to let them know what I have done and that if they have any future questions, to feel free to reach out.
Mrs. Rose?
So I would first thank them that, for coming up and bringing their concern, because that takes a lot of chutzpah, and a lot of times people don't like to, have a direct confrontation with folks and tell them about their grievances. So I would appreciate them doing that, and then I would also acknowledge that I'm going to inform the superintendent. So in informing the superintendent, I would have tried to communicate as much of the background information as I know so that she can adequately make a decision on how she can approach it by reaching out to her people she's delegated in those areas. Now, when I see that person again, if I do see them again, I will let them know that I did tell the superintendent, and hopefully they'll see changes at some point. But if they don't see it, let us know. And at that point, if I'm elected on the board, then I would be able to follow up and ask and say, well, what were you able to do? And if there's a reason why it couldn't be followed through, at least I would know. And maybe that could be addressed at a school board meeting so that the general public can understand what she's done and what she hasn't done, and not that it's fallen on deaf ears.
When you review the budget for the district, which is hundreds of pages, what will be your process to determine if you will approve it? Mr. Anderson.
Process to approve a budget have several things. First of all, does the budget make sense, and is the budget a sound one? For instance, are the budgeted items tied to the goals? There are 4 goals in the district, so all monies must be tied. We're expending money for a reason. Also, I would make sure that the proper people are trained in how to submit a budget, because I think what's happening sometimes, we're submitting budgets and without the proper training. We have to understand that there are areas that we need to look at, such as the maintenance of effort, because if our maintenance of effort is not there, which is a special education function, then we're going to owe money back to the state or to the federal government. So we have to look at all those areas, but the main thing is to make sure that the budget is tied, that it doesn't exceed, it doesn't put our taxpayers in a bind, and it's one that we can support.
Mrs. Lacy?
So the first thing would be to understand what do we need. We know that salaries is the largest portion of our budget. So how many teachers do we need? How many other positions do we need? Also looking at it from the standpoint of curriculum as it relates to the data and academic achievement. What does the data show us? What do the students need as it relates to that? With any type of intervention, materials that may be needed, or the curriculum, what do we need to support the curriculum? We want to make sure that we have a clear understanding of what is needed, and then from there on to determine what is a wish list, and then we set the budget based on what is absolutely going to bring about the achievement that we want to see.
Mrs. Robertson?
So, one, I would look at what the different codes are, because I need to know what I'm defining and what I'm looking at. And so in order to see what, we're paying for, I need to know what number 73 is and what 66 is, and how does that pertain to the district's operations. Because in order for me to review the data and actually make sure that it's being used appropriately, I gotta know what's being paid for. And then also I would look at, all of the data, see if it's consistent. As a scientist, I've looked at a lot of data, and numbers don't intimidate me. Actually, it's much more comfortable than doing this forum. And so for me, looking at this data, I would look at the trends and I would see, well, is there any way we can cut something here and move something here, as long as it goes with the board goals and that we're able to support the superintendent and what she's trying to do. Sometimes we have frivolous expenses, and is there a way that we can control or minimize those expenses and better purpose our funds?
Trustee Cooper?
The budget. The budget process actually is an ongoing process. We receive weekly board updates to know where we are and what we're doing as a district. So by the time it's time to develop the budget and for them to submit it to us for approval, we've been a part of the process of knowing what they're doing, what their needs are, how many students we project. A lot of it is based on how many students we project to have in the fall semester that will be enrolled. And so as long as those projections here in the last 2 or 3 years, the superintendents at the time overshot that number, and we ended up having to make adjustments within the budget that was created because the numbers that were not as projected. And so what we're doing now this year is the budget will be based on a good number, if you will, that we can build a budget off of that. Then it goes to staffing, which is most of our budget, and making sure that we don't have a lot of dead weight on that staffing side. And so the budget is an ongoing process.
Thank you. We will now take questions from the audience and those who are joining us from home on our live stream. And we have received, once again, a lot of questions, which tells us that the audience and community members are quite engaged. So please give yourselves a round of applause. Our first audience question is, what would your elevator speech be to parents that have moved their children out of DeSoto ISD to bring them back? And we will start with you, Mr. Ederson.
Part of my elevated speech would include the fact that the superintendent, in all her wisdom, she has focused on 3 A's. So we're not not a district that only focuses on athletics, which is what we have traditionally been known for, but we focus on academics and the arts. And we have a lot to offer in the academic and the arts. There's a lot of work they're doing, for instance, at the early childhood level, and we're making some gains in terms of early childhood and early literacy. And so we have dynamic art programs as indicative of the young lady who just won a Grammy from our high school. And so forth and so on. And McAllen is an art school, so I would tout that as my elevator speech, and then I would talk about the wonderful opportunities that does exist, and I would include athletics. I would include that we typically we're going to state in all of our areas, most of our areas, many of our areas, and I would combine that.
Thank you, Mrs. Lacy.
I would say you have to come back to DeSoto ISD. We got it going on. We have school of choice that's coming, which will give you more options for things that your student may be interested in. We're bringing back pre-K 3 and 4 because we want our students to engage in this academic skills at younger ages so that they can start kinder and first, a little bit more advanced than what they would have been without it. We have some awesome fine arts programs. We have great athletics. We can cook. We're doing hair. We have good academics. We have, our calculus classes. We're doing this. We're doing this with our English class. I have to add there, pump it up. You just got to come on back and see. We know your child is wonderful, and we need your child to be a reflection of us and join in our wonderful stuff we got going on.
Mrs. Robertson.
It's okay, that's good. So I would basically let them know, hey, maybe you had different before and you didn't have the greatest experience and that's why you left, but you haven't had Dr. Usama Rogers. And this leader is the person who is actually making progress in our district and has an experience that is unmatched to transform students' experiences and their education and make impact in our community. And so by bringing your child back, my child is in the district, and so I'm committed to believe in what she can do because I'm trusting her with my biggest asset, my biggest investment. And so in order for me to do that, that means I believe and I stand behind her. I don't have to have my daughter in public school. I choose to have my daughter in public school because my house is paying for this public school. And I think that anybody else whose house is in the school district, they should look and see, well, I'm gonna get a return on my investment. And I stand behind the superintendent and what she's done and who she is, and I'm gonna put my best investment behind her. And I think, if you haven't had her, you should try her. And we have our different programs.
Trustee Cooper.
Come back to DeSoto ISD for the AAA experience. We have rebuilt, we've restored a lot of trust in the community, and we've also made an effort to connect with the community. This is your school. This is your place where your children have gone and your grandchildren are going. Come back to DeSoto ISD. Why? Because we are the best choice. Not the only choice, but we are the best choice. We have places where schools that you can stay longer as opposed to just staying 2 years and moving all around the district. We restored the neighborhood school. And so we just want our students that are in our school zone to come back to receive the free public education that was originally designed by the state of Texas.
Have you consistently subbed or volunteered at any of our schools? And if so, what were your thoughts about the state of our district? Ms. Roberson?
No, I haven't served as a substitute or taught at any of those schools. But what I have done is being an active parent, I've been present in my daughter's school. I've communicated with the principal whenever I've seen different ideas that I think would be really great for the school with their NASA and aerospace interests. I've also sent things to the superintendent when she mentioned things in a board meeting and said, hey, we're looking at ways to integrate the STEM and the arts program. And I'm like, you know what? I know a program, let me send it to her. When she talked about student achievement, I said, you know what? I know a book, let me send it to her. So the things that I've done, I haven't actually physically taught, but I talk to the students, I mentor them in their homework help every Tuesday at a local church. I give my time and spend and develop them in their math. And these students have been special educated needs. They've been, your typical students that they're doing okay, but they're not very goal-oriented. They think they're just gonna play athletic, be an athlete. And I let them know you need to also develop your academic skills. You can do whatever it is that you wanna do, but you gotta be prepared to do it. And so I've spoken to students at KJ.
Trustee Cooper?
We do campus walkthroughs, and just last week, I was able to see the students and the teachers actually doing what was according to the board goals that we established. The teachers were on task, the students were engaged, and it was really rewarding to see that. So that shows me just over the last year that we've made progress, because this time last year, we were in a bad situation. We were fighting to make sure that we could get that B rating. But now I see everything that we've planned is putting into practice by the superintendent and her staff.
Mr. Anderson?
So I've not volunteered, but I did work for the district for about 3.5 years. And in that time, I had an opportunity to see a lot. I was a campus administrator as well as a central office administrator, which in my role, I had to travel to each campus within the district. And so I saw and learned a lot. And what I saw and learned was that some of the issues our culture needs to be changed. And there's an infrastructure issue within our schools in terms of technology. And COVID exposed that, which is why Joe Biden, and I was going to mention in terms of closing the gap, if we tap into what Joe Biden's infrastructure plan calls for, which is technology in underserved communities, as well as increased support for students with disabilities, I think that would go a long way. Another thing that I hear from teachers are, teachers are just not happy, not just in DeSoto, but across the board. So we can change some things there. There's a lot of opportunities for improvement. One other thing, when I worked as a 504 coordinator and working with all the counselors, they are not.
Mrs. Lacy?
I've clocked so many hours as volunteers in DeSoto ISD. They probably owe me some money, but I worked for DeSoto ISD also. I worked there for about 1.5 years, and I love working in DeSoto ISD. The only thing why I don't work there now is because of the pay, honestly. But I loved it. I could leave my house and be clocked in 7 minutes later. It was a great, great thing to work in DeSoto ISD. I will say that as it relates to structure and systems, we do need more defined roles for how certain campuses and departments overlap and connect. so that we don't have like bumping of heads when things are being planned, or if something like, for instance, you're trying to plan a meeting where you need teachers, administrators, those type measures. We need everyone to have their defined role to make it happen.
We will start with you, Mr. Ederson. Have you spoken to any teachers or their aides about what actually happens in the classroom and what the needs are for the children?
I have, and I can tell you from a counseling perspective, one of the needs and one of the concerns is that we focus on Senate Bill 179, which says that counselors ought to be spending at least 80% of their time in counseling duties, and that's not the case. Counselors are overwhelmed, so they don't have an opportunity to offer the mental and emotional support to the students that are there. Also, in speaking with teachers and aides, they feel overwhelmed and overworked and under-supported. Now, that's not to say when you hear it, it sounds like DeSoto is a bad place to work. DeSoto is not a bad place to work, but we have to be frank about it. Our teachers, we are demanding a lot from our teachers, and so that's why they're leaving, and they're leaving in droves. We have to find a way to lessen the burden. When I served as principal, I always told the teachers, you don't work for me, I work for you. And my job is to remove barriers and make it such that you can be really efficient at your job. So those are some of the conversations I don't have anything to go into with 1 minute. I'm always running over my time.
Trustee Cooper?
I have to be careful with that question since I'm on the board and I'm not supposed to do a lot of dialogue with the staff. And so when it comes to if a staff member would come to me, I would have to make sure that the superintendent is involved in that conversation. But I have not received many complaints, if any, from our staff members. Just to be honest with you, many of our staff members feel like we're in a good space. The superintendent, part of her constraints is to do a survey to make sure that she can see the climate. Culture and climate is very important to us. It's one of her constraints as a superintendent. And so she has to make sure she keeps up with how her staff members are feeling. And so we base a lot of this, what you would ask me for that, I come from that standpoint of seeing how that's going and what's being reported on those surveys.
Absolutely. Have you spoken to teachers or their aides about what actually happens in the classroom and what the needs are for the children?
I have not spoken to them as a candidate, but as my colleagues, I have spoken with teachers. And I do understand that teachers do feel like there's a lot placed on them as it relates to student achievement. Of course, we know we have the A through F accountability, so all of the pressure of managing the class when you have different type of behavior issues that may be taking place, having to manage that in addition to producing academic gains in students are concerned because they feel like if students are being disrupted, then they're unable to teach. And we know that if you can't teach, the students can't learn. As it relates to aides, I know that they do feel like they're underpaid, that they should make more money because they're having to do a lot of strenuous work, especially if you think about like with special education, the paraprofessional. They have to do a lot of strenuous work.
Mrs. Robertson.
And so, yes, I have spoken to many people that are at the schools, even just in spare time when I'm with my daughter doing some of her activities. I've come across many teachers, and it seems like the general consensus as to, what a lot of their challenges have been premised on is just the discipline component, their safety, them feeling as though they can effectively do their jobs. When the students are not abiding by the student code of conduct, their discipline actually serves as a distraction to them. And so when they have to cater to those distractions, it takes away from their teaching and instructional time. And so therefore they're not able to do their job as they desire, and then therefore that cascades into them not being able to help the board, help the school district meet the board goals in terms of the 4 board goals. The other thing is, of course, there was an interest in salary, but they said that even if you pay them a lot of money, it still doesn't take the burden off of their responsibility. And with assistance, there's a special education need. There's a few teachers that have nonverbal autistic children, and they are the only person in that class, and they are required to have an assistant, but they don't.
We still have, in many pockets, a negative reputation for our district. What are your strategic plans to change that? Mr. Edgerton?
One of the things we have to do is, I think we need to continue to tout the AAA experience that Dr. Rogers has implemented. I think we need to get behind supporting her. I think it would be important that we all have to be ambassadors for the district. If we're all telling, we need to do a better job communicating the good things that are coming out of this district, because there's so much that DeSoto ISD has to offer, and we can change that. The other thing is, and I think it's happening, and I'm so proud of our student athletes, and I say student athletes, for their prowess on the field, on the courts, as well in the classroom. We need to make sure that we educate our community to the fact that our students are athletic, but they're also smart, and they're very artistic and creative. And we need to continue with that. We can fight the negativity, as been said earlier, in the form of previous forum, with communication and being positive ourselves, and not being negative within the system.
Mrs. Lacey?
You know, we have to make sure that we're continuing to speak good about ourselves. I know for me, anybody who will take the time to listen to me, I tell them how much we love DeSoto ISD. I tell them about my 2 children who are products of DeSoto ISD, who was able to go to college without remediation, and who are successful adults. So anyone who will listen, I tell them, I put DeSoto ISD on the banner. And I think we need to do that. We need to bring back maybe some of our alumni. We have Von Miller Day coming up. We need to highlight those type things so that people can see that we really do have it going on in DeSoto. And we need to highlight our academic achievement, the little that we have. We need to just, you know, put it on the banner. Maybe we can have community family engagement, bring it back again like we used to do at the on the academy side, where we would have seminars and just opportunities for families to learn about different topics that they were interested in learning.
Mr. Robertson? Mrs. Robertson?
So my platform is Put the Stereo on Mute. And I've been using this ever since I was pretty much an undergrad. And it means breaking stereotypes. Do not let people define you. And MUTE is an acronym for Moving and Uplifting the Community Through Teaching and Education. This is something that my dad put in me. He told me, regardless of where I come from, people are going to look at you and they're going to have one assertion. But you allow people to define you based off of what you do and who you are. So I would say that when it comes to the ideas and the stereotypes of how DeSoto is portrayed, we don't let that be our narrative. We take control of our narrative and we define who we are. And so we put the emphasis on the academic foundation. We promote the academic accolades above everything else. We put the teachers' faces out there. We show that as a community we support them by putting maybe their faces along the street signs outside. Put the teachers out there. When you go on the website, you can't find the teachers. You don't even know who they are half the time. Create a culture that supports the academic system, because everything else is going to follow. And so for me, that's how we break our stereotypes.
Trustee Cooper?
It's easy to get stains, it's hard to remove stains. And so how do we remove the stains that we've had over the past? By replacing the old news with new good news. And I believe that we are working to do that with we've made a pointed effort to put out what we are doing. We've had increased town hall viewership, and we also had more people to come to town halls. And those town halls are where people can actually ask questions and get an immediate response. The town halls are designed so that you can see what the district is doing. We're doing better financially, and I praise God for that, not to take it to there, but I thank God for that. We're not where we used to be. If we didn't bring in another dime, we can still pay our employees for so many days down the road. And so being financially sound was very important to me, but also operating so that people can be proud that they live in DeSoto. And I believe we're restoring that back to our district.
Trustee Cooper, what is your stance on the now popular theme that's occurring across the country of banning of books?
Say it again. Say it again.
What is your stance on what is now quite popular across the country of the banning of books?
The banning of the books. When it comes to what is being taught schools, that's something that we have not had to face as a board. But when it comes to books, I don't agree with having some literature that is not age appropriate. I think some literature should be reserved for parental approval, because you never know what a parent wants in their house and what their students are receiving at the school. The parents should have access and should also know what that is. And so I don't think that the school district should make a blanket decision based on what type of things that go against what they teach at their home should be allowed in schools.
Mr. Ederson?
So we need to be careful here in this area because, first of all, we operate based on the vision and values of our community. But I don't believe in there should be carte blanche banning of the books across the board, because I think that gets into the space of taking away First Amendment rights. However, we should have age-appropriate material and literature in our schools. But there's a system and there's a process to decide on what books, which curriculum comes into our schools. And then if there's something that a parent objects to, a parent always has the option to opt out for their student, for their child. And the parent, and there should also be a process for raising concerns about certain literature in schools. But the business of just banning books because there's going to be a takeover, I don't think that's the proper way we do it. We live in a democracy, and we need to respect that.
Mrs. Lacey?
I think it's a really slippery slope, because there's really no defined concrete definition to even go by of how a book should be banned or what's the criteria to ban a book. I think it's just so convoluted, and it could just cause us to waste time on things that we really don't need to. So I always default back to the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. If we stick to the curriculum that the state has outlined for us, I believe that they will keep us in safe waters to where we don't have to worry about those hot button topics that are out there right now. I do agree that parents should have an option to take their child out of a particular lesson and receive an alternative lesson that will cover the same text if that's what the parent is wanting to do. But other than that, in order to kind of dodge those hot button topics and subjectivity that's going on.
Mrs. Robertson?
I also agree. It's kind of challenging because, I watch and make sure what my daughter is watching and reading, because I want to protect her innocence as much as possible. And I believe that's what a lot of parents want to do. They want to make sure that their child or, their students aren't taking on information that they aren't mature enough to handle. So I think if we have people who are actually degreed in library sciences and they have an experience in the different types of literature, whether it's classical literature, modern literature, any other kinds of books, then we can use them as resources to figure out how to categorize the books that are in the library, and then possibly put measures on their library book cards that don't allow them to check out certain books or don't allow them to go into certain regions. As a parent, I'm hoping that I can teach my daughter that whenever she's not with me, she can know I'm not supposed to go read those books. And that's hard. A lot of us, we try, but our kids do what they do. But I think if we rely on the expertise of our librarians and allow the curriculum to be transparent and see what the teachers are assigning to meet those curriculum guides, then we can also figure out what would be the best way to keep books.
Share a concrete idea for supporting each of the following groups. 1, DeSoto ISD teachers and employees, and 2, DeSoto ISD families. Mr. Anderson.
Let me start with families. We need to bring them into the discussion. We need to make sure that they feel welcome, that they feel invited to everything that's happening at the school. And so also some families cannot come when we host meetings, so we have to go to where they are. Cornelius talks about, if you want to say the people, you got to serve the people. And you can't lead the people unless you love the people. If you really want to save them and you love them, you go out to the communities. And you have events centered around their availability. As far as teachers, we need to listen to our teachers. Our teachers are telling us something. They're screaming loud, but we're not listening as a school industry. And we need to do a better job of listening to our teachers and focusing on what their needs are so that they can go into the classroom and teach those babies. Because if we don't have good teachers, we need to take care of the people who take care of the kids, because that's the bottom line.
Mrs. Lacy?
I would say for teachers and employees, one good thing you can do, feed them. If you bring them random lunches, the teachers will be happy. I'm telling you, I work in education, and for us to get that announcement over the intercom that somebody has provided free lunch for the teachers on their days in the teachers' lounge, that could turn your day around. You will be excited. The principal can announce to us the snow cone trailer is outside in the parking lot. Everybody on your lunch, get a snow cone. That kind of stuff helps teachers, small things, to feel appreciated. In addition, we know the big bang one, we need to pay them a respectable salary, because teaching is hard and they do deserve to have more money for their efforts, because education is a critical infrastructure for a developed society. We need our educators. For families, we need to over-communicate, let them know what's going on. We also need to follow up.
Mrs. Robertson?
So I believe that if you can connect the two, so create programs, create opportunities, get big, super science Saturdays, bring STEM expos, bring culinary cook-offs. We have the culinary program at the high school, have a junior master chef, and I saw Cedar Hill was doing it, and I was like, oh, that was my idea. But it's okay, we can still do it. But I feel like, we have all these restaurants here, have the professionals cook against the students. Right? Have a big kickoff, it's the family reunion. When it comes to, DeSoto's families, the school district, we're talking about everybody in Glen Heights, Ovilla, and DeSoto. We are one big family. So why not have a family reunion where we are just doing things, celebrating each other, and in that we weave in the importance of academics and the culture of learning. We bring enrichment programs, we bring camps so that our families are supported, that have children, but the community members know that their dollars that they're paying are being reinvested through the inadvertent support of the school district in their board goals. So I believe that if we do that, we can reach both the family and the students.
Trustee Cooper?
When it comes to reaching the teachers and employees and the families, it's all about showing them that they matter, that their voice matters, that how they feel matters. And so what we did last June, we did approve a package that would give pay raises to our staff. And now we're one of the highest in Great Southwest as far as pay. And so we heard the staff saying they wish they could make more. And so we responded as a board and approved that. But with our families, it is communication and over-communication, but showing them that they have accessibility to our employees, they can talk and they can be heard. Our superintendent's office, administrative staff, they can be heard. And their school board who represents them, they can be heard. Everyone wants to matter. Everyone is not going to show up at all the meetings. Everyone's not going to call up there at school, but they want to know that they matter. And by doing it, it's just knowing that they have accessibility.
Mrs. Lacy, this question will be asked of you first. There's a perception dealing with district bureaucracy. How would you break the habit or reputation of the district bureaucracy not accepting professional volunteers who want to help? There's a perception dealing with the district bureaucracy. How would you break the habit or reputation of the district bureaucracy not accepting professional volunteers who want to help?
Well, I would think that as a trustee, with the bureaucracy would first off have me to understand what my role is. I know that I'm not the superintendent, and I am not looking to oust the superintendent. I'm looking to come to this district in order to help improve the student academic achievement. So for me, in order to kind of move away from some of that bureaucracy that they have, it would be to follow the policies, follow the procedures that are outlined by the district as it relates to volunteers who are wanting to come and work that in accordance with the policies and procedures. And if there are some policies and procedures that's preventing that, then we would need to look at and address that to see what we might need to change or refine to allow everyone to feel welcome to help out in our district.
Mr. Ederson?
So as a school board member, we have to make sure that we're following policy, so it'll be really, really difficult. But what you can do is, you in conversation with the superintendent, you make sure that, number one, they're aware, that she's aware that we have a bureaucracy issue and things are getting tired of the red tape. And so that's going to impact one of her constraints, which is going to show up in the survey from the community and from the parents and stakeholders, such that when they want to get things accomplished, bureaucracy kicks in and things go into a stalemate. So I think if we keep that constraint at the forefront of the superintendent's agenda, because we cannot become complacent and think that, you know, we serve the public and our constituents are important, but we also have to make sure we're sticking with policy.
Trustee Cooper?
Having everyone go through the proper process is very important, and it always starts with starting at the superintendent's office. Allow her that opportunity to know what is going on, so if it's volunteers wanting to come, we've had several groups that have given bikes and books to our students just last month, but it was how they went through the process was important. They didn't start trying to go through a teacher. They didn't start trying to go through a principal even. They started at the top and then allowed everything to function from there. We have to get things back to operating by what's in policy, yes, but also starting at the proper process to make sure that it happens. We love having volunteers in our district, but we have to go through the proper process to make sure that everything is being followed.
Mrs. Roberson? Correct, I agree in that you have to make sure that you follow the chain of authority, right? The superintendent sets the curriculum for the district. And even though as a volunteer, your intentions may be pure, but some things that you may be doing may kind of slow down her intentions and the work that she's doing. So you have to go through the correct chain of authority. And in that, it allows her to see what policies are in place. She can ask the board and talk about, well, this is what I want to do. The board can see what policies are in place and they can figure out a way to legitimize it so everybody has an equal opportunity to volunteer from a professional perspective. Because even though you can volunteer as a human, as a person, sometimes your allegiances may cause problems as well. And so by having those correct channels and following the correct channel, you can establish an effective network so that the professionals can help and volunteer as deemed fit. And so that way you're not giving any kind of preference to any type of friends, and we can keep our accountability transparent and honest and not following any of the problems from before.
We'll start with Ms. Roberson. What role should the community play in the district, and how do you expect them to hold you accountable?
So the role that the community should play in the district is making sure that the services and the things that they are paying for through their tax dollars are being done. If I'm elected as a trustee, then I hold that responsibility of the people who voted for me to say that I can put your best forward. I'm going to make sure I'm watching as your liaison that we are all working towards that board goal. So I think that the way that they can hold me accountable is essentially by watching what I'm doing. And if I'm not doing something within the realms of that position, then remove me from that position because I'm not allowed or I shouldn't be in that position. For me, it's about the mission. And if I can't do the mission, then don't put me in that position. And so as a community, people with the right to vote, you do not have to vote me in if you don't agree with what I've done. And then you also can remove me if I'm in a position, if I'm not doing something accordingly. So the people have that power to hold me accountable, and I welcome it because I plan to do everything I'm supposed to do within my powers.
Trustee Cooper?
I would agree, accountability, holding the board accountable I love it when people from the community come to board meetings, even just to express their concerns. Because now I get a true feeling of how you feel, what you're going through, what you want to address. And even, especially love when they come to town halls once again, because that's a time where I can actually give a response in real time. And so the community's role is to hold the board, the school district accountable. This is our district. This is not my district. This is not the superintendent's district. This is the community's district. And if you have concerns, express them. And so that we can know, so we can make sure that we are being held accountable.
Mr. Edgerson?
Everyone's accountable, and so that's important to remember. The role of a trustee is to make sure that policy is being followed, making sure policy is prudent, and to make sure that there's a communication between the board and the superintendent, which is known as the team of 8. The role of community members, how they can support schools, are become involved. Don't just be on the fringes looking in or complaining or talking about it. I refuse to be that type of community member. If I see something, a way that I can invest or contribute, then I'll do so. This is the way I'm running for this seat. This is the way that I want to contribute. I want to make sure that we bring a better school system and a better product to the citizens of DeSoto.
Mrs. Lacy?
I would say pay attention to what is going on with the school board. I mean, in this time of technology, if you have a smartphone and a Bluetooth, you can be outside cutting your grass while you listen to the school board meeting. There's a lot of things that you can do to stay informed. Once you are informed, that puts you in a better position to ask questions, where you can hold everyone accountable to what you're seeing based on what you're hearing. Also, coming to things like this before you vote to understand who are the candidates and what type of impact will they be able to make on the school board, you know, before you're voting. And also, if you're noticing that all these things that we're saying we're not doing or we're not able to execute, to vote us off, because it's our duty to make sure that we are picking trustees who are going to serve the better interests of our students. And also the over-communication part. Just can't speak that enough.
We will now proceed with closing statements. Each candidate will have an opportunity to give a 1-minute closing. We will start with Mr. Edgerson.
So thank you for this opportunity. As I was stating in my opening statement, I'm really happy to be in this position. I'm from Chicago, and I was a high school dropout or kick out. And I understand the needs of what and the narrative and the algorithm that our students are experiencing. That was a setup for later on, because I later became a principal of an alternative school in addition to the elementary, middle, and high school. I bring to this role 32 years of experience at all levels that I spoke to earlier. I'm Lone Star governance training. I'm also a member of the Texas Education Policy Institute, which I talked about when we go to Austin, and we fight for local communities to make sure that they give us what we do. I served on the United Way of Greater Houston. I served on the board of teacher preparation at Prairie View University. So I'm experienced in giving service and to families and students and communities. And I desire your vote. Thank you.
Trustee Cooper.
Where I serve, I love, and I put my heart into it. And I serve this community on this board because I love this community. I really have a genuine love for the people of DeSoto that accepted me and my family 24 years ago. I love the faces that I see at Walmart. I love the people that I encounter just walking down the street. But I do it because I love the children, not only the children, but the children of our community, because this is where I serve. These are the people that I want to take care of me years down the road. And this was my role, to serve the children of DeSoto with all that I have, with my heart, making sure that they are going to be successful in life. Thank you.
Mr. Durham, still with us?
thank you to CDC and the Chamber for having this forum. As you leave out and you turn right or left on Hampton, you're going to see my signs. And on my sign, my platform is accountability. And that is what you just heard them all saying about accountability. It's taking responsibility for doing what you said you were going to do. That's what I'm about, plain and simple. I want to serve this community. I'm going to work hard. As you see, I'm running unopposed, but I am campaigning my butt off because I want you to know who I am. And I didn't get to answer a lot of questions, but I'm going to stay around. So if you have a question specifically for me, I'm available. All right, thank you. James Durham, place 4.
Mrs. Robertson?
So, yes, I am a scientist, I am a parent, I'm a homeowner, but I've also been an educator. I've been a program manager that specifically targeted students that had 2.5 to 3.3 GPAs, and I have single-handedly worked with students that were special needs and gotten them into internships, got them scholarships, and got them opportunities in professional and graduate programs across this country. I've spoken on many platforms where I've been chosen out of numerous students to represent the Thurgood Marshall Scholarship Fund, and now it's the College Fund, and speak to the stakeholders about more money. I've been chosen as a NASA ambassador by Leland Melvin, the former educator. I have been doing this. Yes, I am new to this area, but as soon as I got my feet here, I've been working on how I can be active in transforming and helping our community have the school district they want. I am passionate about how our students are growing and what they can do. I want them to be their best selves. And I'm going to do everything I can with my wherewithal to share it with whomever is willing to receive it to do it.
Mrs. Lacy?
I always tell that I believe God led me to DeSoto because I was really looking for a house in Duncanville, but my realtor kept sending me DeSoto listings, and I'm thinking, why is she sending me DeSoto stuff? God must want me to go to DeSoto. Lo and behold, that's where I found my home, in DeSoto. I have worked in education for 23 years in an urban school setting. So I know academic achievement. I know what high quality instruction is. I know what specific and targeted interventions look like in order to move the needle for academic achievement. Currently, I'm an educational diagnostician, which means that I diagnose learning disabilities. So not only am I familiar with the general education student, I'm also familiar with the special education student. Because we have students from the functional living skills spectrum all the way to the gifted and talented spectrum who we need to focus on to make sure everybody is getting either interventions if you're struggling or enrichment if you are excelling.
Thank you. And that concludes our school board candidate forum. If you please give each candidate a round of applause.
We also want to take this opportunity to thank our 2 moderators, Judge Aisha Redmond. Appreciate your involvement, and you did just an incredible job. We also want to appreciate and communicate our gratitude to Patrick Williams, Jr. If I was going to give a 3-minute elevator speech for DeSoto, I just pull out a picture of Patrick. Would you do that? Yeah. And then we want to thank Ken Govan, our timekeeper since 1826. Thank you, Ken. We sure appreciate you for doing this every year. Let me just remind you that early voting starts April 24. It goes from April 24 to May 2. We also vote election day is actually May the 6th. You can vote at several locations. You can find those on the website. And I do want to say the Teacher Appreciation Week. You know what week that is? Yeah. May 8th to 12. May 8th to 12. Please communicate to a teacher how much you appreciate them. Also, we want to thank the Chamber for being involved. I'm sure there are announcements you want to make.
Thank y'all. I just want to give y'all my own round of applause for just coming here to listen and participate. When you hear about things that people have to say about DeSoto, you took the time to come and hear and get your questions answered instead of assuming. what is going on, you hear for yourself. To continue to hear about what's going on with our wonderful district, our State of the District is going to be May 19th, is going to be in here. Sponsorship, of course, is available, and those tickets are already on sale on the DeSoto website. Please come out to continue to hear the great things that are going on with the district and stay and keep informed. I want to do a special thank you to Patrick. Patrick volunteered for the chamber for 2 years, doing flyers, answering calls, coming to events. This is a phenomenal young man. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for the human that you are, and I know you are going to go and be a rock star. You are the greatest asset that anybody could ever have.
Thank you all for being here. You can watch this if you have friends that couldn't be here and they want to go back and watch. You can watch both of the city council candidates, school board candidates on Concerned DeSoto Citizens Facebook page. It will be out there as soon as Mr. McCowan's able to get it up, and it's the Concerned DeSoto Citizens Facebook page. Thank you, Leon. Appreciate you. Thank you for coming, y'all. You are dismissed.